And full screen. All right, guys. Welcome again to the next session. This one's pretty cool for me, just because Dan Esparza and I go way back from coaching against each other at C team at Service in Bartlett. There was one of the most epic C. We talk about it all the time. Probably comes up in every conversation we have. One of the funnest, craziest games I've ever been a part of. But Dan and I go way back, and it's been awesome to see him grow as a father and a man, and go off and do things now in Wisconsin in another state. And so, what I was really just interested in when we had Dan on was to have a kind of conversation about going to another place and having a perspective and just all that. So without further ado, Dan Esparza, welcome to the Coaches Convention.
Thanks, buddy. All right, guys. It's good to see some familiar faces. And bear with me. I'm going to have some water and stuff. We had a pretty big win to finish our season last night, so it was kind of a late night. So I'm rolling on 3 hours of sleep and some beverages from last night. So, but thanks for having me. And it's good to be here. It's good to be talking to all of you guys. And I'll have a PowerPoint here in a minute. But, I think the first thing that I'd like to start off with is just to, thank all of you guys for, what you guys pulled off in the fall and just being able to have football. I know we just got done with our season last night. And I was telling Tim, it felt like we just pulled off a Herculean feat. We were actually able to play all 18 of our games here. So at all 3 levels, 6 games. We had a scare last week and the week before where a boatload of our guys got contact traced. And we played a game a few weeks ago with 21 varsity guys missing and a handful of freshman guys missing every now and then. But, we were able to pull it off. And I know our community here was very grateful. We got a huge ovation when we came into the school yesterday, and I don't think it was more about the win as much as it was like just having our kids in the community involved. And so I know in Anchorage it was the same. So thank you guys, and you guys should feel really great about doing that and pulling that feat off in the fall when things were obviously much worse than they are now. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. Can I share my screen, Tim? Is that doable?
Yes. Yeah, you should be able to.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen here. And I've got a PowerPoint going here, guys. It's 5 slides. It does have some information. I don't anticipate that we're going to take a full hour, just because, I'd like to have more on here. But like I said, we were in the droves of our season and kind of rolling through everything. So just talking a little bit about perspective and just my journey in coaching. And Tim wanted me to talk a little bit about things that I wish we could have done different in my time there in Anchorage at Bartlett or, at West Valley. And so that's kind of the direction. And then talk a little bit about our program here at Waunakee. So I'm one of the assistant coaches here at Waunakee High School. You can see there, Coach Rice is our head coach. Coach Rice is a living legend here in Wisconsin. He's a Hall of Famer. Actually got his 300th win this season, this spring. We've won 6 state titles here at Waunakee, a couple of second place finishes. So it's definitely one of the storied programs in the state of Wisconsin. We're a school of about 1,300 kids, very different than Bartlett. This is one of the wealthiest or wealthier suburbs of Madison. So the majority of our population is upper middle class kids. And but it's a great spot, great place. We actually live here in Waunakee. We're able to buy a house. It's a great community to live in. So I am grateful and happy to be here. So first thing, I just want to talk a little bit about my journey in football and just some things that I think would be helpful, for people or coaches in Alaska. And so I'll start right off the bat. Football really was my assimilation to American culture. I was born in Anchorage, but football was certainly not a part of my parents' lives or my family's lives. I did have a cousin that played a little football at East in the late 80s. But there wasn't any kind of past football experience at all. As a matter of fact, we played some youth football, and the first football game that my mom went to, she wanted to run onto the field because the ref threw a flag and she thought that he just dropped his yellow handkerchief. And so she wanted to go on the field to help him retrieve that. So, but it was my assimilation to American culture, and not only mine, but my dad came to Alaska in 1975, and he didn't know how to read or write in English. He was a dishwasher, and he told me that part of how he taught himself how to read and write in English was that he always heard these guys in the kitchen talking about this sport called football, and if they watched the game. And so he would try to get the newspaper and try to figure out what the hell they were talking about, and then would watch it on TV. And that's just kind of how he started to himself assimilate to life in the United States. And the reason why I think that's important is a lot of you have those same types of kids in your programs, especially East and West, and just kids that are first generation American kids. And this is the thing that's kind of bringing them in to showing them the values, the positive values of our society, of working hard, of being a part of something bigger than yourself. And so those are all things that I learned later on in football, but really it was introduced with the game. And I remember very distinctly when I fell in love with football. My brother and I were playing Tecmo Bowl. And we were taking safeties left and right because we figured that was 2 points. And I can't remember him or whoever decided what happens if you run the other direction. And we ran the other way and got 6 points, and we were hooked. We say you get 6 points instead of 1 in that soccer that everybody else is playing. This is great. So the next point just in my journey was youth football. I did not have a positive experience in youth football. In fact, I absolutely hated youth football. And I remember playing in 5th and 6th grade. My brother was much better than me. He was a year younger. And I remember vividly throwing fits that I did not want to go to football practice because I wanted to stay and watch the re-release of the original Star Wars trilogy with unseen, with the scenes that had been cut out. And my parents made me go to football practice, and I absolutely hated it. And it wasn't that I didn't like the sport. Like I said, I loved football from a young age. It was, I just didn't have a fun experience. I played for a dude. I actually talked to Coach Jay about the guy. He said, I know that guy. He was a dick. And it was a guy that he was just concerned with, being an egotistical old school coach and yelling and screaming. And that maybe has its place when you're playing. You've got older guys, but with 5th and 6th graders, that's just not the move. I just didn't really learn much about football. I didn't have fun. There wasn't any kind of relationship building that was going on, and I absolutely hated it. And I wanted no part of it. In fact, I think my mom got me into swim lessons in 7th and 8th grade. I was done with football. I remember my brother played Pop Warner football, and my dad was helping coach with those guys, and he was a part of the first Pop Warner group that ever left the state to go play in California and play in Reno. But that just it didn't work for me. I'll talk a little bit about later on. One of the things that we do here at Waunakee that I think is great is our youth programs are married from the 3rd grade all the way up to the 12th grade. So, our youth program here at Waunakee runs the exact same O, the exact same D, and answers to the exact same staff and head coach that I do and everybody else in our program does. It's married from top to bottom. We do have middle school football here. So our middle school program also, and we have distinct coaching staffs all the way up and down. Our head coach, Coach Rice, is pretty big with the youth level on. He does not want to run kids off. He's talked to me about having to let some youth coaches go just because they were doing exactly that. Kids weren't having a good experience. They were quitting. They weren't wanting to play. which is counterproductive to what we do here at the high school. And it really makes a big difference. I told Dave and Tim, my initial role here is I coach the freshman offensive line, and we had a very studly group of kids. Two of them I think would have started for us in 2019 at Bartlett. By the time that we got them, and I'm still obviously learning all of our zone blocking scheme and everything that we do in the spread offense, and they were all over it. They were well coached. They understood what we were doing. It wasn't like having to come in and having to be completely retaught with everything that we're doing. So it was a pretty neat thing. So moving on with me, like I said, football after sixth grade was done until Coach Jessen stepped into my life, and he was at Clark, and he was getting guys signed up for football, and all of my buddies put their names down on the list to play freshman football. And so naturally I did it too, because I didn't want to be excluded. I had no intention of playing whatsoever. Fall rolled around. I missed the week of the season, and I think that is the last time that I, until this past COVID year, missed football. And that was the fall of 2000. And called, and I convinced my parents to let me have one more shot at playing, and the rest is history. I'm still here 21 years later and still involved in the game. And so I said it right there, I was saved by Coach J. I really was. Being a boy in East Anchorage is hard, and being a boy in East Anchorage that maybe doesn't have direction is even harder. And so I don't know how my life would have turned out had I not gotten involved with playing football, and Coach Jay stepping into my life and kind of steering me in the right direction. And the next one here, I was a mediocre high school football player at best, and I saw Trotter is on here. He can attest to that because he was one of my coaches in high school. But I loved football, and one of the things that I loved with it was the camaraderie and everything that came with it. I wanted to stick around with that. And it was something that, I felt like I belonged. I didn't feel like I was judged or thought less of because of my ability or lack thereof. I didn't think that my importance as a human being was placed on how well I down blocked or trapped. And that's one of the things that I always tell Coach Jay is that, you were really hard on me and you're really hard on us, but I never once doubted that you cared about me as a human being, that you only wanted, me to produce football wise. And so that's the sub kind of point I have right here is we had a great culture and tradition at Bartlett, and the emphasis was on building men over winning football games. And a number of us that played at Bartlett have gone on to be, good men and good dads and husbands and successful in the community and everywhere that we're going, and that isn't just my generation. That goes back to the late 90s. And again, Coach Trotter can attest to that when, going into Bartlett in 1996 and after that, there's a lot of really successful dudes that played there. And I'm not talking about successful in terms of like football. I'm talking about successful in terms of just, being great at life, running businesses, being in the military, probably some dudes being retired out of the military as officers. So it's a pretty neat thing. And that was definitely something that I wanted to stick around with and continue. And I think that that's something that over time has changed my focus on football and using it as kind of like a tool or a vessel to help and help boys turn into men. I know you guys, I think, had that earlier or yesterday about boys turning boys into men. I'm definitely a product of that. And I think that it's an essential thing of what we do, especially today in the environment that we all live in our country that's unfortunately super divided and divisive. Football isn't. Everybody in the locker room's got to all pull the rope, and everybody's got to get that done, and that hopefully will help our country. So next thing, I started coaching at 18. Right off the bat, I was thought I knew way more than I did, and sometimes I still do. But I look back on that and go, I don't know how in the hell I was even prepared to do that. But it went well, and it really opened my eyes to what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. That leads me to my next point. You don't have to necessarily have, and I know there's a lot of guys that are in this meeting here who were great college football players and are great coaches, but there's a lot of guys in this room who didn't play a down of college football either and are great coaches. And I think that sometimes we get really mixed in as coaches to, well, you have to do this, or you have to be at this level in order to be able to coach. And that's absolutely incorrect. No college playing experience, no problem. I was able to get in at 18 years old and really learn from some great dudes. Obviously, Coach Jay. I was around guys like Dave, guys like Galen. I was able to be around Shackelford, which I should have picked up one or two things on BSing more from him, because he's the king of that. But that's neither here nor there. But I was able to be around some titans of coaching and absorb everything. And especially in Alaska, where there really is a limited pool of qualified coaches, you all in your programs have the future of your program already there with you. Maybe identify some kids that are playing for you right now, that are not going to go anywhere to play college football. Maybe they're going to go to UAA. They're good kids. They're willing to give back to the program. You have your future coaches already with you in your program, around you. They already know what you're doing. And it's just a matter of cultivating that and really bringing it along. One of the things that I really admire about our coaching staff here, and it's one of the things that I tell the guys on our staff, that I know this is a special place, is we have a lot of alums that are coaching here. That left and came back, or stuck around and have been here for years. And I think that shows that there is something special here at Waunakee, that these guys, it really matters to them. They really care a lot about it. And they want to continue to be here and continue to make this thing great. And so I think that's a big thing. And especially in a place like Anchorage where it is limited, you have that. And so the last thing on here, obviously up until, really this past March, all of my coaching experience had been in Alaska. And that's okay. Just because coaching is coaching, teaching is teaching. If you can go out and coach there, you can coach anywhere. And really one of the things that I've seen is there are really good coaches in Alaska. And I've seen that being here in Wisconsin now, and being around some really good coaches here, and seeing the way that we run our program here at Waunakee is really not much different than the programs that are run there in Anchorage. It's the same things, emphasis on, in the weight room, winning the off season, paying attention to detail. I know a lot of you all are doing that. And so I know sometimes the state gets boxed into, well, it's not this, there's not D1 guys that come out of it, yada, yada, yada. But there's nothing wrong with the experience in Alaska, and guys can leave and be great and do great things everywhere. I mean, Coach Shearer left and did great things in Washington. So it's pretty neat. All right, so little perspective here. This is probably where some of you originally met me, so I wanted to throw this in there. This is me at 18 years old. I was probably definitely a little bit lighter then, couldn't grow facial hair. Some would argue maybe more or less arrogant, but still. And so just some perspective on where we're at, where we came from, and, being able to keep on doing what I'm doing and happy. So now we get into the 2020 vision and things that I wish I would have known when I was in Anchorage or in Alaska. So right off the top of the bat, I said this a lot at meetings. I don't know why people use this term, but I dig it. There's 8 million ways to skin a cat. No offense is wrong. No defense is wrong. Any offense or defense is great. And it's absolutely important to run what you know, love, and fully believe in. We experimented with running the spread, obviously. When I got to Bartlett in 2012, we fell flat on our face. And really it was, we didn't know what we were doing. Anybody can draw it on paper and it looks great there, but when the bullets start flying, can you actually make the adjustments needed in the game to be successful? Do you actually believe in it? And I think that's a critical factor and something that we definitely missed on. And was the switch to going back to running the wing T. That's what we knew. That's what we believed in. I remember exactly when I was going to make the switch. I talked to Ali Larajani, who was our offensive coordinator. We had just lost to Diamond, and it was our, I think, 12th loss in a row. And I looked at Ali and said, "Hey, man, we have to switch. If we go 0-8 in back-to-back seasons, odds are I won't be here next year, and none of us will. So we're going to have to do something to get this going. And if I'm going down doing something that I believe in." And we switched to the wing T. We actually played West the next week and lost, but we're a little more competitive. And then after that, we flipped that into a 9-game winning streak. And really our program just skyrocketed. And again, it was just something that we knew, we really believed in. We thought it was the right thing for our kids. And so whatever that is for you, you do it and run it and believe it and own it and be happy that you're doing it. Don't necessarily buy in that you have to do things like everybody else. It's okay to be outside of the box and be unconventional with that. The next thing, hindsight being 2020, change is okay. And that's definitely something that I have learned since coming here. And it's definitely something that I've learned from Coach Rice. So we run a pro style type spread offense here. Everything is zone blocking. We do run a little bit of gap scheme stuff, but 90% of it is zone blocking. I was just talking to Tim, and I think he almost upchucked when I told him I really like the mesh concept, man. I would run mesh all day long and maybe a little bit of stick. I like some snag. We run some vert and crossing routes and everything. And I don't think that guy was ready for me to be coming out swinging like that. I asked him, because before we went to this offense, Waunakee was an old school kind of like Big Ten I formation, 12 personnel, or excuse me, 22 personnel stuff. Not a lot of receivers on the field, a lot of ISO power, double lead type stuff. And so I asked him, well, what led to the change? And he said, well, I was looking around at our community and where the game was going. And granted, this is a guy who has been coaching here since 1988, and he's been the head coach here since 1992. And he'd been running the same offense and defense since 1992. And obviously with a lot of success. They won 5 state titles and won a ridiculous amount of games. And he just said, I knew which way the game was going. I wanted to be ahead of the curve. I didn't want to be behind it. And so he made the decision to switch to a spread out offense. And most of our offense, we still have a tight end. We run mostly a lot of 11 personnel. Last night we ran a boatload of 12 personnel just because of the run box that we had. But yeah, I mean, really, it was a dramatic switch, and it worked. They won the state title the first year out with the offense, and we've had a lot of success in 18, made it to the state semifinals, and 19 they lost in the state championship game. I was just telling Tim, I wish that we had a full season with this group, because I do believe that this group would have gone to the state championship and probably won it also. One of the things that he did, and I think this is awesome, is he wasn't an expert on it. And so he actually went and found somebody that was, and had that person, it was his cousin, come in and run the offense. And our offensive coordinator is a genius. I've learned a bunch from that guy. And, I hope to someday know half of what that guy knows about offensive football. But he's come in and he's great to work with, and he's all over it. And I admire that from Coach Rice, from Pat, that, here's this guy, he's a Hall of Famer, He's the dude here. And he has the wherewithal to say, I don't know how to do this. I'm going to bring somebody in that will. And that's definitely something that, for me, being hindsight 2020, that I wish I would have thought about doing. So my next slide there, I hope Galen's not in here. Sorry, Dave. The spread offense is not as evil as I thought it was. I actually kind of dig it. The way that we run our offense here, we try to be as balanced as possible, but the emphasis in our program is on our offensive line and our defense. It is the one thing that Pat wanted to remain intact with the switch in offense. So we call our offensive line the Hogs. And it's a big deal here to be a Hog and be an offensive line kid. And so we still, try to line up a lot of inside zone, outside zone. We run a lot of mid zone, and really try to win the line of scrimmage and play physically. But I do kind of dig it. I kind of dig the RPO stuff that we run, and the zone blocking wasn't as weird as I thought it was going to be. So it's you spread dudes. It's not, I don't think you guys are as big a communists as I thought you were maybe about a year ago.
This is being recorded, Dan, right?
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm glad. I hope Galen's not in here, because he'd punch me in the face. So the last two here, always be prepared. And the one thing that I've learned here, and this has really helped me being here, is always be a teacher first. And you don't have to necessarily have a teaching certificate, but I think great coaches are great teachers, man. And I think everybody knows that. I think, and not even necessarily what you know, it's what you can actually effectively communicate to the kids that you're coaching. And that's definitely something that I wish that we would have done more, is just get teachers and people who could effectively communicate, and get them out there with kids, regardless of what their coaching ability was. And actually, Coach Matt Chance, who's the head coach at Bartlett, that's how we got him. He didn't have any coaching experience, but he was an extremely effective teacher. We were able to get him out there, and he was a natural at coaching because he was an effective teacher, and he could effectively communicate to kids and get them to do what we needed them to do. So always be a teacher first. And I've said this since I was student teaching up at West Valley. Being an effective coach and being good at coaching makes me a better teacher, and vice versa. And so, I would really, if you're looking for coaches and, you just can't find them amongst your kids, or they're not interested, look in your buildings, find that effective teacher, that teacher who's good at communicating with kids and students, and get them out there. If they're an effective teacher, they'll learn how to coach football. They'll learn to do what you need them to do. You can give them a small role at first, and they'll absorb it, and they'll get it going. And that's definitely something that helped me. Having to learn a completely different offense was, I just approached it like, over the summer, if I got told that I had to teach U.S. history and I'd never taught it, you just got to approach it the same way and own it. Mistakes are going to be made, but that's just part of the growing pains of it. And so my last point here, it's okay to start over, and that's one of the things that I told myself when in moving here. I told my wife, I kind of put myself into a little bit of an exile. When I left in 2019, I wasn't happy with the season that we had. We had a lot of issues with our team, just a lot of ups and downs. And really, when I looked at it, I felt like that I failed as a leader. I looked at me first. I was just talking about this with our coaches the other day here. I just felt like I completely failed as a leader, not just because we were, losing on the field, but just the number of issues that we had with kids, and having to, hold kids out of games and suspend kids and kick kids off of our team, and all the drama that we were dealing with. It left a really bad taste in my mouth. and I looked at myself first and really just went to work after that on, last year, not knowing that we were going to go to COVID stuff. I said, I wanted to change and become a better leader first and then learn more about football. And so I just went to town on just absorbing and reading anything that I could on effective leadership, effective communication, and just relating to people, building relationships, building community, because I really did feel that I failed at that. And I told my wife that I was going to take this move initially like I was going into exile. Like I was going to Elba and I just needed to get better. And when I came out of there, I was going to rock and roll. And I still, I absolutely want to be a head coach again. But I said, when I'm there, it's going to be on like Donkey Kong, and we're not going to run or make the same issues. I'm not going to feel like I did leaving in 2019 with just failing as, like I said, as a leader and just failing our kids. So it's okay to start over. It's okay to be back down at the bottom and working your way up. I think that's where I told Tim this morning, it's almost, I believe that it's made me a better coach being here and starting and being a freshman O-line coach. I didn't take it at first. I absolutely did take it as an ego shot. And then after that, I said, this is going to make me better. I'm going to approach it that this is going to make me better. I'm not going to worry about what's going on tomorrow. I'm going to focus about what I got going on today. And I believe it made me better. And I think it's put me on a right path to whenever I do get to, either move up or become a head coach, that we'll be in a better spot. So, all right. All right, doing good on time. So this is my last slide here, and then if anybody has any questions. So I just wanted to briefly kind of talk about our program here. So our program here is extremely competitive. We have 171 kids out for football. We have 75 guys on varsity, and then both of our lower levels teams are in the mid 40s. And so it's a very competitive program. Our school has about 1,300 kids, so it's really neat. We have over 10% of our school population out for football, and football is absolutely king here at Waunakee, just in the town, not even necessarily in the school, but in the town. And our kids, though, work extremely hard at their trade. It's almost year round. So our season ended yesterday. Monday, I'm actually back in the weight room with our guys. We're right back after it. Our head coach said this is a wraparound season. We're considering it a wraparound season. So this was kind of like spring ball. So we have to get back to work and get ready to go for the fall. The majority of our kids actually had been lifting since June. We were able to get back into the weight room in June. And not knowing if we were going to have a season or not, our kids just worked their tails off nonstop. And just kept coming and kept coming and kept going. And it's one of the things that I told Tim. I think it's really neat about our community here. We are in a wealthy, upper middle class suburban community. I told Tim I lost count of how many kids on our teams, dads and moms or what have you, are lawyers. I mean, it's crazy. And one of the things that I said is you would expect, or I would have expected, just coming from Bartlett, that our kids maybe were a little stuck up, a little like privileged, a little, not willing to work hard, arrogant. And honestly, we don't have that here. Our kids work their tails off. The majority of them, I don't think you'd be even able to tell by, talking to them that they were wealthy kids, that they were privileged kids. They're good kids. They work hard. They do everything that we ask them to do. And so it's really awesome. And not only that, but our coaches. Our coaches all take turns in running our weight room. Everybody takes shifts to run the weight room, which was a breath of fresh air for me. That's one of the things that really burnt me out at Bartlett. Was I found, at times I was the only man on the wall there, and everybody else had something else to do. Obviously being the head coach, the buck stops with you. But that was hard, just to have to consistently be the only guy there that's doing things, and not the case here. All of our coaches take turns in the weight room, All of our coaches have different roles on game day, different roles throughout the off season. I mean, just everything is kind of delegated. Everybody has a role to play in what we're doing. There's nobody that's just around not doing anything, or saying they have something else going on. And it's a really neat thing. We have a great coaching staff here. It's absolutely ridiculous. We have 20 coaches on staff, and they are. It's a almost. If anybody's in here has ever read A Team of Rivals, it's about Abraham Lincoln's presidential cabinet, and you can get it on audiobook. But honestly, it's like 45 hours long or something crazy like that. The book is like, it's just ridiculously long. But it just talks about how Abraham Lincoln wanted to surround himself with the best people possible, and people that were going to challenge him intellectually, and we're going to challenge each other intellectually, and just be able to make the country great. Sometimes there was definite rivalries. That's why it was Team of Rivals, because a lot of the guys that were on in the cabinet with him were dudes that were trying to run against him for the presidency and thought that he was an idiot. But he got those guys in there, and they were able to, save the country. And so that's kind of like what I like in our staff too here. We really push each other to be competitive. We challenge each other intellectually out on the field, and in everything. But the one thing that I do love also is everybody has a say. The one thing that our head coach is really awesome about, if somebody has a suggestion, if somebody has something, he listens to them. I mean, there isn't that egotistical thing of, well, I'm the boss and we're going to do what I say. Everybody kind of has a say and ownership in what we do. And I think that's possible just because we just have an absolutely studly staff. I can't emphasize that enough. A handful of former head coaches from all around, and just guys that are in here. They love football. They love being around kids and coaching, and it shows. It really does. The product shows on the field and in everything that we do. We also get along really well, and I think that that's important too, off the field. And so it's super awesome. So in terms of how we run football, I said we have an old school attention to detail approach to a new school football. So especially on offense, we're really more depth over breadth. We don't run a lot of pass concepts in terms of like 800 different things. As I was saying, our mesh concept yesterday was huge for us in the game. We run our crossing routes, our vertical routes, but we don't really do a heck of a whole lot. And our run game really is just our inside zone, outside zone, mid zone. We run our gap scheme stuff, which is, our power read stuff, a couple different ways. But it's really just depth and what our kids can execute and what we can do playing fast. We're a really high up tempo, no huddle offense. We do that on all three levels. And yesterday, it really is what sent us over the top. The varsity game last night, we played against DeForest, a big rival here. DeForest was on a 19-game win streak, won the state championship the year before, had beaten Waunakee the year before, and we just wore them out with our tempo and just our kids, just their grit and their determination to win the game. But also because we don't do a heck of a whole lot of stuff in terms of scheme. They're able to execute it very, very well. And so practice every single detail. That is something that I have, like, we meet more here than I think I had ever met over the course of 18 or 17 years of being at Bartlett. We meet about everything. So we have a staff meeting on Sunday with every coach. Those sometimes can last 6 to 7 hours, depending on the opponent. And we basically just go in there. We run through what we're going to be running. We call our run menu, our pass game menu. What are we going to do? How practice is going to go? What's the depth chart going to look like? Who are we playing against? What's their depth chart look like? Watch some film. I mean, just everything. And that's the one thing that I have just been blown away by, is that every single detail is outlined and hit here. There is really nothing that goes missed. We film everything, even all the way down on the freshman level. So every night when I get home, I'm having to break down our inside run film, or our run game film, the 7-on-7 stuff. And for me, it's been great because I'll jump on, the varsity stuff and I'll learn exactly what's going on and then help out when I get there on game day. So roles and responsibilities, like I kind of talked about a little bit, everybody has a role or responsibility. We call it everybody's got to pull the rope, regardless of who they are, what they're coaching, what they're doing. Big on high standards and expectations here. And going on to the next part of that is being demanding, which we absolutely are demanding, but we do it in a compassionate and empathetic way. That's the big thing, is that we don't want to run kids off. We want to make sure that we're demanding of kids and demanding the best of them, but doing it in a compassionate, empathetic way, where they're enjoying their experience, and we're getting more out of them that way. So, just being here, it's made me we have some studly kids here. We have a tight end and a receiver that, he's a tight end and then an offensive lineman that have, the offensive lineman now has offers from an SEC school, a couple of Big Ten schools, all the MAC schools, the Pac-12 school. Likewise, I think our tight end is going to blow up. I want to say our coach got called by Michigan State. Harbaugh coach, Jim Harbaugh, called the other day, Iowa State. So we have some dudes here. But the one thing that I have seen is that the kids that you guys have now in Alaska, that we had when I was there, they could hang with anybody in the country. You take those dudes that were elite in Alaska, and they're elite anywhere in the country. And I think that's an important thing to understand. And likewise with the coaches too. And so the last thing I have here before, if anybody has any questions, really to me, the youth and middle school marriage is critical. And I know in Anchorage it's tough. And I know I had a lot of issues with the youth, Pop Warner and everything in Anchorage, just because it's hard to do in a big city where there's loyalties that go all over the place. Much easier to do in a town that only has one high school. But it's critical. It's absolutely critical. And I've seen that being here, of marrying that youth program and a middle school program with the high school. It makes the experience better. You're able to build your program, and really it benefits everybody, because when everybody's competitive, it's better football. You're getting a better look. If kids want to get recruited, that helps with that level of competition thing that I always heard about, kids in Alaska. Well, we're not sure about the level of competition. And so I think that's an absolutely critical thing. And I think that it's something that, if, especially in Anchorage, could get going, I think it would make football in Anchorage just skyrocket for everybody. And just marrying the programs with the high schools and really sticking to it. So that's all I got, guys. So I guess I'll open up if anybody's got any questions or anything. I appreciate you guys letting me talk and crash the spot for a little bit. So does anybody have any questions or anything?
Coach, this comes from Coach Akana down in Kenai. How does your head coach keep all the assistant coaches accountable for their responsibilities?
Oh, it's just really easy. He just tells us this is what we have to do. Our head coach is not shy about firing people. So it's a very this is what we have to do. And you got to pull your rope. But honestly, I think it's why, selective of who you hire. And we've got guys here that want to be here, that want to do the things that are needed to win. Whether that's running a weight room at 6:45 in the morning, or we had lifting sessions, I think, going from 6:15 in the morning in the winter all the way until 6 o'clock at night. I mean, broken up throughout the day so it didn't interfere with school. But I mean, it's guys that want to be here, guys that want to be good. And so I know it's tougher. It'd be much tougher in a place like Kenai where you have limited options. But it's really just finding dudes that love football, finding dudes that love your program, finding dudes that are willing to do anything to make the program succeed. And that's where I think for a smaller school like in Kenai, it would be going and identifying those kids that are your players, because they're going to love what you're doing more than anybody else, and they're going to want to stick around. So I hope that kind of answered that question. I mean, that's really how we do it here. We have guys that aren't teachers or don't work in the school that will leave their jobs at 5 o'clock at night and hustle over here from downtown Madison to Waunakee, which is probably about 30, 40 minutes with traffic to get here in time to run the weight room. So it's a really cool thing.
Anybody here? Questions? Jeffrey Trotter has a comment for the public. You look fantastic.
Thank you, Jeffrey Trotter. I'm glad you think so. That means a lot to me. Your opinion always means a lot to me.
What's the head count on your brood right now? We got 5?
It's 4, my man. It's 4, and that's all she wrote. There are no more Esparza ladies coming from my end of the family tree. We're done. That's absolutely we're good. I was just talking about, you know, the football coaches have daughters things followed me here, because when I got here on our staff here, we have a boatload of daughters also. Like, I think we have one coach that has sons. Our head coach, Coach Rice, has 3 daughters. Our offensive coordinator has 2 daughters. Our old line coach has 2 daughters. I mean, it's just ladies everywhere. And so, but no, we're good. No more. That's all she wrote. So I'll be attending like track meets and basketball games and stuff for here in a few years, but no more.
Guys, let's give Dan a round of applause. Thank you, Dan.
Guys,
We'll be in touch, my friend. For all you guys out there in the call, we're back at 30 after the hour. Before we take off, we got some BSN swag to throw out there. Coach Walt, what are we doing with that?
3 $50 gift certificates. The numbers that we're looking for this round are